Toshia Shaw, are you ready to fearlessly question today?
Yes, I am.
Toshia, I have to comment. I love the hair. I love the new hair. This is new. Last time we spoke, this was not a thing. I like it a lot.
Thank you. Thank you. It's hot, so I have to get it up off of my neck.
I cannot do that. I don't have enough. But yeah, Toshia, I want to thank you for coming on the show today. And before we really get into it, this is going to be a little bit of a different show than we normally do because there's so much backstory I think people need to know. I try to tell people that they need to know about your story as much as possible, but again, people don't like to click on links. They don't like to take extra time for things. So I want you to, as concisely as you can, give us the high points. And I mean, I'll put the advisory in front of this thing and say you might want to have a box of tissues nearby because this is not
Oh
really
no.
lighthearted. But let people know what is going on. Why I think this is going to be a spectacular show. So just catch people up a little bit for me.
Do I need to go all the way back? You need the condensed version? I will give you the condensed version, I guess.
Yeah, just I mean, let people know exactly where we're going with this a little bit, even though I don't know that you fully know. So, but just catch people up to what you think they need to know.
First of all, I'd like to state that I'm honored that you selected me to interview because I do feel at this point in my life that I'm living fearlessly, and it wasn't always so. I do have a lot of backstory, and it does start from being young as a young lady. Even young as a child, I was introduced to violence. My father's a Vietnam vet, so I was raised in a pretty volatile environment. On one hand, I knew my father loved me, but on the second hand, I did not understand what PTSD or post-traumatic syndrome was. I was a child, so I just thought that his nightmares in the middle of the night, his rage, all of that was just part of who he was as a person. And although I loved him, I did fear him a little bit, and I dubbed him the bear. Would not wake the sleeping bear. So dealing with seeing the violence and between him and my mother, the domestic violence, that was instilled in me. And also, I lost a very dear friend immediately after graduation. She was murdered by her boyfriend, and who he was my friend as well. And so that was another situation I had to deal with. I dealt with domestic violence because being caught up in the cycle, I did choose guys who mimicked my father because I didn't know anything better. So immediately went into the military, into the Air Force, and trying desperately to fit in. And as you can see, I don't I don't really fit in anywhere, but I did try to assimilate, and I did try to fit in and be the best soldier I could be. However, I kept choosing the bad guys, and I found myself immediately in another situation where I had domestic violence as a part of my life. And so the cycle just kept going. And then when I did finally get out of this cycle, I once again chose to do something in Las Vegas where I felt I had to. So I got caught up in the nightlife. And I would say that I was just feeding my son because I was soulless, meaning that I put my soul on hold and my ego was just there. And I did what I felt I had to do to survive. When I did wake up a little bit and I decided to give my life to Christ, I moved immediately to Memphis, Tennessee. I wanted to go back home and try to start over. At this point, I was a single mother. And once I did that, I decided to take myself out on a night on the town. Here I am. I just moved from Las Vegas. Las Vegas is a big little city, very fast paced. And I felt that, Memphis was harmless. I had my own car. And when I got to the nightclub, I never made it in. I made a decision to get in my car and trail two guys to have breakfast because at their urging, they stated, you don't want to go in there. We just left from out of there. It's boring. Come with us. Let's have breakfast. And I craved attention and friendships. And I thought that they were harmless because I was driving my own self. However, I walked into that establishment as a free woman, but I left as a sex slave. Because when I was there, I decided to tell this man all of my business and why I had returned home to Memphis, how I'm trying to start over, how I was looking for a job. He used all of that information against me, and that night I was taken. And this is the part that gets a little tricky. I was taken, and so the horror began as being sex trafficked. It wasn't a long situation, but it was horrific, and it's something that I would not wish on my worst enemy. So that's my backstory. However, now I am living a victorious life. I am very happy. Finished college, have a master's degree, and MBA in healthcare administration, and I'm the founder of Purple Wings, an organization that takes care of at-risk girls here in Las Vegas, Nevada. And at risk, we're talking about, and I think that all children are at risk, but we're talking about children that have it particularly hard. They come from a low economic background. They're primarily girls of color, Hispanic, and African American. They all present with trauma. So they may have had some dealings with the juvenile justice department, or we get referrals from all over the city. We get referrals from the Clark County School District, Department of Family Services, just so all girls. And I have a program called the Angel Program for girls, particular girls who have been victims of child sexual exploitation, rape, domestic violence, and stalking. So as you can see, my plate is full. And then over here, I have a for-profit called T3SL, where I do small business consulting, but I prefer to do consulting for wholehearted organizations. So that's nonprofits and organizations that deal with the elevation of the spirit, because I think it's very important. So that's my condensed version, and I kept it light. What do you say, Joey?
Well, Toshia, I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but I mean, that's like you have. I only was familiar with about the last 60 seconds of that condensed version, but I mean, the whole thing of it is like 5 Lifetime movies rolled up into one. Like it's.
I know, man. I know. I was just contacted by a television program not too long ago. I mean, it is. You know, I joke, and my mother jokes, I have 9 lives, but I think I got a few more left. So.
So. And I think, you know, the reason that I wanted to do this show is I think it's very important because, you know, so many people can't even fathom just one of those experiences, let alone all of them together. Yeah. And we want to just make our own excuses for things that are not even close to the same ballpark. So we're going to jump into that. But first, I want to get into the first real fearless question to you. I'm a little nervous. I build this as the question I'm most nervous of asking probably in the history of the show. So we'll see how this goes down. Hopefully we can still be friends after this, but
my words. Let's go.
The question that I want to know, and this is particularly related to the abduction incident. So in your TEDx talk, you kind of mentioned that there was a moment when you come back to the table where you guys were having breakfast, and you kind of realized things were going south quickly.
Yes.
And you were in a public place, right? So the question that I want to ask you is should you have taken control sooner, or could you have?
You know what? That is a part of guilt, and that's something that I let go and threw the hell out the window a long time ago. When a person has been victimized, it's always woulda, shoulda, coulda. If I could have just done this, if I wouldn't have done that, if I wouldn't have worn this, if I had just hadn't gone and followed them there. But honestly, this kind of saying that should have made some other choices, that's kind of saying that I'm responsible for what had happened to me. And I will say that, no, I shouldn't have been trafficked, period. Whether I just went to the bathroom and came back. Like, how many of us, honestly, have met up with people that we just met, just walked down the street, bumped into somebody, felt a spark, and we say, you know what, let's go have coffee. I mean, how many times have we done that? Or, you know, would you like to go over here for a minute and just chat it up? I mean, that's the type of situation I felt that I was in. So for years, I beat myself up. That led to depression, and not just depression. We're talking manic. Like I wanted to commit suicide. I did not want to live. I felt worthless. There were times that I just pretty much gave up because of that. because I thought that there was things that I should have done differently. But I don't take responsibility for that, because no one deserves to be taken or kidnapped under any circumstances. So how do you really answer that question? So no.
Yeah, and I mean, I figured as much. Obviously, I think, and what we kind of initially started talking about when we were kind of cooking up, the idea and where we came from it. The thing that I really kind of want to know is being obviously I have a military background, and you're kind of focused on trying to stop this from happening to other people, right? So a lot of the military is preparation for extreme circumstances, obviously making sure this doesn't happen to other people. There had to have been a moment in time, like, so if you're in I've never been in any situation like this before, so again, like I said, you're free to slap me across the face at any point.
No, well, I can't get to you, Joey, but that's
well, I'm sure you could find me and track me down, but anyways, so the question is like, should we be focusing? I mean, is it possible to say to like somebody, like when you're talking to those girls that are at risk or whatever, say, listen, like if you're in a public place, is it possible? Is it safe? Is it safe to do that? Because I don't know. That's what I don't know. Like, is that the wrong thing to do, or you would probably have more experience than me?
No, and that's part of the awareness. So on the other hand, because there's always two, right? So on the other hand, I don't process it like that, because if I do, that'll take me back to victimization, and I'll pick up that word guilt again, and I just can't live with that. But on this hand, being absolutely, sincere, yes. Number one, you don't go to places with people you don't know well. Number two, you don't just haul off and go. But is it realistic? People are going to still meet up for coffee. People are still meeting each other online every day. So the thing about that is you have to be careful. I tell young ladies, you have to meet people in a public place, which I did. But my main thing is I left my purse at the table. I mean, you're never that comfortable. You don't ever be that comfortable with someone you don't even know. And people that you halfway know. You take your purse everywhere you go. You don't leave your drinks around unattended. I see a lot of girls lay napkins when I'm out. They'll lay a napkin on top of their drink. That doesn't keep your drink safe. Just order a new one. You can't do that. So you have to be conscious of everything. I was in a state of shock, although I pushed my intuition to the side. He wouldn't have done anything, I'm sure, while we were in the restaurant. I should have yelled. I should have screamed, but I didn't, because I was in shock and I was mortified. I was in terror. He had my purse and I was just scared out of my mind. And when things like that happen, you're a robot. It feels like you're out going outside of your body. You're just like, oh my God, whatever this fool says, I'm just gonna do. So, yeah. But now looking back on it, there's so many things that I would have done differently.
And that's not and I don't want to say that they're obviously. So I just for like you said, like it seems like this kind of experiences have led up to have you make this stop happening for other people, and to kind of examine that to maximize that experience to make sure that the most people don't have to go through that again. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, would you have become the same person had you not been able to kind of go through that? I mean,
no. Heck no, I wouldn't have been who I am today. I have to be careful because, I have a lot of followers who are survivors of all types of horrendous crimes, sex crimes. And so I have to be very careful, and they haven't evolved, if you will, and that's that's understandable. Like, everyone hasn't gotten to this level where they can talk about it without crying, or who's so open, who aren't ashamed of what they've been through. So, but for me, and for me alone, I feel like sometimes you go through things to prepare you for things to come, to prepare you for your life's work. So I'm taking responsibility of saying that. So don't go and yell at Joey or anyone else. I'm saying that I believe I went through something like that so that I can have compassion for the girls and the women that I serve in my organizations. That's my thought process. That's no one else's. So there's not a girl or woman who can sit in front of me and say that they've been through all of these. I've been through domestic violence. You don't understand. Yes, I do. I've been raped. Yes, I do. I mean, so I just completely understand all of those facets. And so that's what helps me to connect with my clientele, is because I've been there, done that. And although every situation is unique, I can definitely empathize and sympathize with them on that.
And just a little crowd support pouring in. Sean says, "Thank you for sharing your story. You are a superwoman, Toshia."
Oh,
So,
I appreciate it. Where's
so
my cake? Where's my?
do you have a cape? Do you have a cape? So I'll let you take a break. I want you to kind of turn the tables on everybody at home, and it's your opportunity to ask them a fearless question of your own, something you've always wanted to know the answer to, but we're a little unsure of the response. You get to ask that question now. What is that?
I think I have a question. If I could ask, and it's something that I don't think I've been battling because I'm fine. But the question is, do the men view women differently that have gone through sex crimes? Do you view them differently? Are they still precious jewels to you? That's a good question. I won't take it personally because I know I am.
That's an interesting perspective. I'm assuming that you've had encounters that would lead you to believe differently.
I don't know if it's just an account. Well, yeah, I have once. I've seen something online where a guy was, and of course, Twitter was all up in a, and these girls really did. These girls and women attacked him, and I don't even know if he still has an account. So they handled it. But, he stated some horrible things. And he stated that, I would never date a woman who's been raped because she's been used. That's the most
Right.
disgusting thing I've ever heard, like ever. You know what I mean? And for a person who, if the person presents with low self-esteem or low self-worth, or they have gone through something that traumatic, that's horrible to put out there. I've met some wonderful men that were very loving and supportive and could care less. And personally, I could care less because I feel like someone who's for you is for you, regardless of what your past is or what you've been through. But I think I'd like to hear that answer. I think that's interesting to put out there. And I know that's some things that some of my clients like to know, although I rear them in a different area.
Being I guess a guy and somebody that can actually answer for you right now, I would say that that's a very strange thought. Obviously, it's not like somebody walked up to the rape store and said, "Yes, I'd like one, please. Can I please be raped?"
Right.
It's
Right.
not like something that you willingly put yourself through. So, I mean, obviously, I can see where it could be just like a mental thing where somebody might have a hard time getting past that. But I mean, if I'm looking at it, and again, when I first, we met, I guess I should maybe say where we first met. We met in a private community for Chris Brogan's course that we
Mhm.
both were in. And I started, everyone that was posting, I just started kind of looking up some people and what they were doing. And I'm like, hey, all these people are talking about these nonsense things that they're doing. And here's Toshia doing some like really awesome, meaningful stuff. Um, but I think maybe that could be part of it. But I would say that honestly, I look at it as like like I'm like afraid is I would say admired would be the thing that I would look at because that you are still here and you're 10 times more confident than anybody else could ever hope to be.
Oh,
Uh,
thank you.
but that's just my 2 cents. I don't know. I wasn't prepared to articulate such a we'll say deep response to such a ridiculously good question. So, but if anybody wants to chime in and give their own 2 cents, we would be glad to.
Yeah, let's talk
Feature
about
them.
that because
Um,
that's really interesting. And again, my self-esteem is so that I'm good. So, and I don't have a problem in that area. But if men are thinking like this, then we need to talk about it and have the rhetoric. So maybe we can dispel some myths. Maybe we can change some of that thinking because that's pretty harmful thinking to put out into the universe. I don't think that's good.
yeah, I
But that's
mean,
my own opinion. So.
yeah, absolutely. And just to kind of get another voice in on the mix here, Griswold says, I don't view women differently, but it changes the way I view the world, a bubbling undercurrent of rage, which I think is a
Mm.
probably good way to say it, as Griswold says things better than me a lot of times. Um, I think I want to, so kind of talking about other people and how they view this thing, and my frustration with it is, again, people kind of walk around with this sense of importance for things that aren't necessarily important once you figure out what is really important, if any of that made sense.
Mhm.
But the question is, do you get upset or maybe even offended when you hear people, talk about things that they can't take control of, and they're just like these mindless, like boring, numbing things, and you just like want to just really.
No, I don't. That's everywhere though, right? I mean, it's just all over the television. People are crying about the most asinine things. We've become so desensitized, and there's not enough compassion. And so that's where that problem comes in. I don't get enraged or upset. I have to send out loving vibes to the universe because that's what I'm here for. You can't combat ignorance with ignorance, or rage with rage, or anger with anger. You have to address it with love and compassion, because they're asleep. They don't understand what's going on. And a lot of people choose to be asleep and not conscious of what's happening around us. So I just view them as ignorant. I don't get angry though, because that's a waste of my energy. Yeah.
You are a much better person than I am. You demonstrated repeatedly again and again. So this might be a broad sweeping question, but how do we then wake people up and maybe help them take more control?
You become the example of what you're trying to talk about, because first of all, people who are asleep are not interested in what you're talking about, but they only become obvious or conscious, excuse me, of things until they see it. They have to see it. So that's why I don't go around, professing my love for this, that, or this is what I do to be happy, and you should do this. Like, it's just should be obvious. People will say, hey, why are you so happy? I used to get that. Why are you smiling today? Or why are you so happy? What makes you keep going? And that's when you can reel them in and let them in on your little secret. So that's what you have to do. You have to be the prime example of what you'd like to see.
Is that working fast enough for you?
No, it's not. It's not working fast enough, but I'm doing my part, because we can't save the world, right? We'd like to. In a perfect world, we would just eradicate hunger, disease, all of the murder, and just all of the restlessness that's going on. But man has to do that for himself. You can't. Joey, I would be amiss trying to save every young lady that comes through my door. I've had hundreds of girls and women walk through my door seeking advice and help. And you can't help people until they're ready. And to try to do that and force that on people, it's just going to make you tired and stuff. So people they come on earth for their specific works. And if they never get to that specific job that they signed up for, that's on them. So you can offer your services in a handoff approach. And if they want it, then you embrace them and give it to them, but you never force it on them. Everyone has to learn in their own time and on their own pace.
I'm fighting. I'm gonna have to ask this. All right. So, dealing with the circumstances you deal with in a lot of cases, there can be a point where it becomes too late, right?
Oh yeah, I have that a lot. I've had. There's always something when you're trying to give back and when you're trying to help the next person. Yes, we can't save everyone. Some young ladies go back to the pimps. They go back out into the world. Some women continue using drugs and all of that. So again, they only come, but the door is always open. It's just kind of like a parent, a very loving parent that knows their child isn't ready, but the child says, I'm ready, I'm gone. They walk out and they're like, oh, you can come back. So the door is always open here at Purple Wings, because girls, we have like 87% of young ladies coming back to our program because they left because they weren't ready prematurely. So I don't though. Sometimes it gets sad. I've seen some things. I've seen some pretty sad things. Dealt with some things in my years, some deaths and everything. But it makes me stronger and it keeps me going. I can't get caught up in the negative or the ones that I couldn't save. Because if I did that, I'd stop doing what I'm doing and then no one would be saved.
That's a very good way. Kristen Drysdale says, it says, whoops, that's the wrong one. She says, educating people seems to be the biggest role that a successful survivor has. I mean, does that kind of be like your default throne? I mean, is it something that you have to do or not necessarily have to do?
No, you don't have to do it. I had to because I made a promise. For me, I believe in God. God is the head of my life. So whatever that is for you, whatever Godhead looks like for you, that's on you. But in the midst of me coming out of what I was in, And that final round, when I gave up, and when I was giving up, and I said, God, I can't do this anymore. Like, if you love me, you know, if you love me, save me. But if you save me, I promise you I'll save someone else. That's what I told him. I said, I promise you, if you save me, I will save someone else. And so God made good on his promise. I'm here doing just that. I tried to, I'm gonna be honest with you, it's very easy as a survivor. Once you get out of that, you just want to run away. You want to lock that part of your brain down. You don't want to revisit that. You know, hell, throw away the key. Who wants to revisit that part of your past? So I was trying to fit in and pass. I call it passing. Survivors pass. That's the young women and men who have had tumultuous lives in their past, and they never revisit, and they act like it never happened. And then something happened, you know, like on those Lifetime movies where the past runs up and kind of like, hello, I remember you. Cool, you know. So for me, I just wanted to make good on my promise, and I wanted to live authentically. So for me to live authentically, it involved me helping someone else and to be honest as to what I've been through. So.
And Kristen was actually putting this question in right as I was featuring the last one, so I want to get this in really quickly. I think it's good too. She wants to know, how long did the process take between the incident, if you will, and when you knew you had a mission?
Ooh, it took me years. I will tell you that it took me, the incident happened in the early 2000s, and I did not begin Purple Wings until 2010. However, I started doing small things, like I would start volunteering at, excuse me, domestic violence shelters and stuff like that. So I knew that I wanted to give back. I just didn't know in what capacity I wanted to give back. I didn't know it would be to this multitude. So I started having dreams about flying with Purple Wings, probably around 2005. Around 2005. So it took about 5 years, from 2005 to 2010, for me to actually make good on Purple Wings, act on that.
So I have two questions left for you, and then I promise we can go ahead and end this interview. But I want to know two things. One, if you could, what's your craziest idea that you've kind of had to kind of, you know, spread things further to make a bigger impact, something that we're not doing that we could be doing, to kind of get all these people that are maybe slightly awake but just not active enough or whatever. What's a crazy idea that you've had that said maybe this will work? I'm kind of interested.
Turn off the TV. Shut down cable networking and television. How about you just shut down television and cable networking? And how about you pull all of the negative music that are flowing through our airwaves? How about if you did that? That's crazy, right? But if you did that, it would force people to kind of take some me time and reevaluate things. Do I really need those TV shows that are showing all this negativity? Do I need this music that's shoving all this crap down my throat? That's crazy, but that's half of our problem right there. You know? And what if the government cared about what we're putting into our mouths? That's a whole nother segment. What if they stopped allowing all that crap, pesticides and all that kind of stuff? What if they took care of their people?
You're right.
The citizens of the United States.
You just opened a whole new can of worms that I'm definitely involved in. That is a whole other show, Toshia, and I almost hit something on it earlier in the show.
Invite me back on that one.
Definitely, we can do that one. We've done something similar a couple of times on the show, but yeah, absolutely, I would 110% agree with that.
Yeah.
And the final question that I'm going to ask is, what's one place now that you are not taking enough control in?
My love life? No. No, that happens in time. That's a good question. I like to think it's pretty even right now. It's not like this. I mean, it's always going to be like a little, ebb and flow, but I try to be conscious of each area. So I have done that recently. I've done that. I'm taking control, complete control spiritually, physically, and mentally. So I'm good. Everything else will just fall into place. I'm sorry, I can't answer that. I'm good.
I think that's good enough. We will end it right there. We can't do any better than that. Toshia, I really appreciate you taking the time being honest and having a mildly questionable conversation with me on this. And I want you to let people know where they can obviously, one, learn more about you and all the good things that you do, and what you kind of maybe want them to do to kind
Oh
of just
yeah.
take one step forward to maybe helping somebody do something that they feel like they can help somebody do.
What I'd like to state is that first and foremost, as citizens of America, we have a lot of control. You like to think that we don't, but we do. And so part of that control is to take a look at your compassion your meter. So if we all just had a little bit of radical compassion, not the small compassion, we just put a little change in a cup. We're talking radical compassion, and just get really bold with it and channel it. And just, you don't have to go out and start something new, but how about collaborating with some of your agencies and organizations right in your community? You can make a big dent in this world. So stop looking so much for purpose. Everybody comes to me, oh, help me find my purpose. Like, if you just look within, and maybe if you just give of yourself a little bit more, your purpose will show up, because your purpose is not about being selfish, actually. Your purpose is actually about giving back to someone else. So you will find happiness, and you will find, I will say, we'll get better if you just have radical compassion. That's what I'd like for everybody to do. And you can find me at ToshiaShaw.com. I'm all over the web.
Well,
Thanks
I
for having
appreciate it.
me.
Not a problem, Toshia. We really appreciate you taking the time. And of course, if you want to hear the fearless question Toshia is most afraid to ask herself, you can head over to fearlesslyquestioning.com to get that as well, along with all of our previous guests. Toshia, this has been probably the most serious and I think important show that we've done. So I want to thank you for being a part of it. And maybe we will have you back if you're so willing and gracious to come back, and we'll talk about all sorts of bad food and all
Thank
that.
you. Thank you,
We're going to
Jay.
go get out of here, and we'll catch everybody on the next one. Take it easy, everybody.
Bye.